Well, time for the main event.
Yes.
So, what we're going to talk about now is we're going to nominate between us some stories that we are calling guilty pleasures. So that is stories that are generally lowly ranked or lowly considered by fandom, and we're using the DWM poll to sort of calculate that or give a metric to. But these are stories not just that we sort of can defend, but that we really actually enjoy. So, like, I can defend the Sensorites, but I'm not going to put the Sensorites on to watch for fun that often. It has come out, but, you know, there's a difference between that and putting something on because you genuinely enjoy it. So we have got stories that are all sort of in the bottom 50, not less than that even, the bottom 40 of the DWM poll. Mm-hmm. And we're going to work through them from the highest ranked right down to the lowest ranked. And the first one is from you, Rob. It came in at 175. Now, I know your numbers, but I don't know what stories they correspond to. So what's 175, Rob?
175, Dave, is The Chase.
Interesting. Now, I would have picked that, but I didn't realise it was ranked so lowly. I thought people would learn to love The Chase.
No. My gut feeling in fandom throughout the years has been it's never been that well regarded, and when I looked at it in the poll and saw it down there at 175, I thought, yep, that's got to be my first guilty pleasure for this episode.
Yeah, look, I know why I love it, but why do you love it?
Dave, I adore this. You know, there are many classic Who serials, and you'll probably disagree here, but that I feel are quite leaden to a modern viewer. Obviously, because they're meant to be watched once and only once a week. And nowadays you try and watch them like a modern serial. They don't always flow so well. They sometimes feel padded. They sometimes feel like they're repeating themselves. They're using limited sets. But this doesn't. This leaps from location to location to location, you know, episode to episode. It's got Daleks. It's absolutely bonkers. And it's fun. And, you know, I think the two big black marks against its name are probably, number one, it's not Dalek's master plan. And two, it gets bagged a lot for the humour in it. You know, it's quite funny. The Dalek comes out of the sand and coughs.
Well, it's got that wonderful, stupid Dalek, like, how long till we arrive?
You know, and I think the humour makes it. I think, you know, classic black and white stories don't always lend themselves to being overly serious, po-faced epics, and this has more of a kind of a comic book feel, which makes it very palatable to me at least. You know, and I find it odd actually that some humorous stories get praised, like the Romans. The Romans is humorous, that gets praised. But this is humorous. People go, oh, no, you can't do that. Oh, terrible. Oh. And I think, no, I bloody love this. This is fantastic.
I'm totally with you. Look, if I was ranking my best Dalek stories, it would be a lot further down than anything else in the 60s. That's okay.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, but to while away a couple of hours with a lot of fun with Vicky and the Doctor and Barbara and Ian and some Daleks, yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, so The Chase for me, Dave. That's my number one.
All right, well, the next one is one of mine. It came in at 192, and it's another Terry Nation story, The Keys of Marinus.
Oh, that's a good one.
This is Doctor Who, I think, at its most brilliant. It is so imaginative. It is exploring a planet. You get wonderful science fantasy with the Morpho Brains. You get that drama with the jungle. You get the stuff on the ice tunnels. You know, really memorable stuff with the ice tunnels and Vasor. You get courtroom drama in the City of Millennius. You've got the Vord. Just so many good things. Hartnell's at his best. In fact, all the regulars get something to do here. And, yeah, it's just so much fun. Again, so many sets. But it's just so imaginative and interesting. And for, you know, this is only, what, the sixth story? Fifth, I think, story. I love it so much. And, look, it's 6 parts. It's a 60 story. But I can watch this in one sitting very happily.
Can I draw a parallel with The Chase that this moves around quite a lot and keeps things interesting?
Yes.
You know, obviously it's not going from planet to planet and so on and through time, but, you know, it's still moving around a lot. It's not static.
No, I agree. I think that they're both really good examples of 60s Doctor Who, and particularly Hartnell Doctor Who. We're jumping forward in time a lot, though, because the next one's one of mine as well. It came in at 195.
Yeah.
It's The Idiot's Lantern.
Ooh, okay.
Now, this was just bagged when it came out. It was low in season polls at the time, and it seems to have been low for a long time afterwards. It's a Gator story, and it's almost always put in people's lists of bad Gators, because everyone has a list of good Gators and bad Gators.
Yes.
And this almost always seems to be in the bad Gators pile, and I don't know why. It's got wonderful characters. It's got a wonderful setting, like 1950s Coronation Britain. Lovely setting. Rose can't speak. That's a big bonus. Because we are in Series 2 now, so yeah. The alien idea is really interesting, really well realised. It's got wonderful little nostalgic references, like the way that the aliens broadcast is, that old broadcast symbol from the BBC. And the character of Tommy, I think it is really, really well done and well acted. I loved this episode when it came out, I still do. And I genuinely don't know why people don't like this one. I can realise why people don't like the chase, for example, because you're right, they're very, it's Daleks and it's silly, it should be whatever. I don't know why people don't like this one, Rob.
Honestly, the Idiot's Lantern doesn't fully land for me. I like... Do they call the enemy... Is she the Wire?
That's right, yeah.
Are you sitting carefully, children? And all this,
Yeah.
Are you listening? Yeah. It is scary. It is interesting. It just didn't quite land for me. I don't know whether the Doctor and Rose were being too smug on that moped at the start and it just put me off. I don't know. Yeah,
maybe, but Rose is sidelined. So, look, maybe give this one another go if some of you haven't watched it since broadcast, because I really like it.
It's been a while for me. Maybe I should.
Yeah. The next is one of yours, Rob. It came in at 197.
Yes, let me refer to my list. Okay, 197, Dave, is The Celestial Toymaker.
Ooh, interesting.
Now, I'll say up front that the Target novel goes a long way to making this a guilty pleasure for me. I read it before I saw, the only remaining episode of this story sometime in the late 80s. I think the book came out late 86, early 87. I just love this idea of this being who's immortal and scary and wants to play games, like this. And I think, like The Chase, this is very comic strip to me. I think it's fun. And, okay, I'm going to go there. I know some people get uptight and some people get very uptight about the whole celestial thing. And it's a white guy riffing on an Asian theme and he's wearing the costume and stuff. But that was never important to me as a kid. I never saw that. To me, it was just this mad immortal who wants to play deadly games and he dresses up in fancy dress. And that's it. I never saw it as problematic. And it's a shame that maybe stories like this and Talons of Wang Chiang and some others are getting these reputations with people in the modern day and perhaps being overlooked or heavily criticised before people even look at them. And it misses that there's an interesting premise and a really good story going on, to my mind. I love The Celestial Toymaker.
I'm very fond of it. When I was very, very young, like 8, 9 years old, I had an audio copy of episode 4. And that just blew my mind. And I wanted to know what it looked like. I read the Target novel. Again, that blew my mind. I saw episode 4. I think it looks really, really good. And particularly as a kid, it really captures the imagination, like you say. I've since heard the audio a couple of times. The first 3 parts are very variable. Part 3 especially, I think, really lets it down, which is the Hunt the Key episode, which is sort of a lot of dancing looking for a key. And that's not too great. Hartnell's not in it much, which is a shame. But yeah, my memory of it is a very, very fond one. And certainly, look, I understand why people find the yellow face. Well, it's not really yellow face, is it? It's, I don't know. I get why people are upset about that, and that's fine. I think it's far less a problem than the anti-Semitism in Creature from the Pit, let me say that. I think it's far less on the scale, but I get it. But no, I have really fond memories of The Celestial Toymaker. I'm glad you put this on the list.
Oh, thank you.
I've got a few now. There's a run of mine and a run of yours.
Okay.
My next one is 199, and it's Colony in Space.
Ooh. That's very low for that story.
It's very low for that story. This, again, to me, is really good Doctor Who. The Doctor goes to an alien planet, and it's a genuinely alien planet with alien culture and an alien civilization and a history behind it. You meet these colonists who are this wonderful idea of people wanting to start a new and better life outside of the polluted Earth, and they're wonderful characters. IMC comes in. They're great characters. The guy who plays Captain Dead, wow, what a villain, what a villain. And it all just sort of works. And then the Master turns up and takes things to another level, and you get Ash's sacrifice at the end. And look, okay, I appreciate that it is 6 parts. It's dragged out, and it looks drab. I think the worst thing about it is that the earth tones that they use for the costumes and the sets, it's a logical thing to do, to use earth tones, but I get that it does make it look quite drab. But I don't care. Again, I can put this on and watch it and really enjoy it, because it's Malcolm Hulke's characters and Malcolm Hulke's ideas and script, and that's always worth watching.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I wouldn't expect this to crack the top 100, say, but at the same time, I don't expect it to be languishing down near 200.
No, I'm really disappointed. This is another one that I think is starting to get a bit of a reassessment, but maybe not enough yet. The next one is 205, which is another of mine, and we're back to New Who now.
Yeah.
It's The Long Game.
Oh, well, okay. I'm very interested to hear what you're going to say about this, because it's not one I'm fond of.
Well, this is the thing. Again, I didn't realise how badly this went down in fandom. Because, as I've said before, the first 3 episodes of New Who, I liked Rose, the others were okay. Then you had the Slovene one, and I was like, oh, is this the series for me? And then you had Dalek, and Dalek was great, and suddenly I bought into this show. Then it followed straight into The Long Game. And I enjoyed that as well. Again, the Doctor's in this weird futuristic society. It's interesting, it's imaginative, it's got good ideas. The characters are interesting. It's got Simon Pegg as the editor. Like Simon Pegg. You know, he gives a good performance. It's not Dalek, and it's not The Empty Child or Bad Wolf. That's fine. There's a lot to love in here, and I must admit I really like the character of Adam. I think he's a really interesting character to have in Doctor Who. The person who goes into the TARDIS and does seek to exploit it. That's interesting, and I really like the actor who played him. I'm not sure why this wasn't popular.
I guess Simon Pegg's acting in a way people maybe didn't expect him to act. I don't know, it just kind of fell flat for me at the time, and it's never really got up there. Although I do like that when we get to the final episodes of that series, there is a callback and they're on the same station again.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's just a very simple story amongst some much more interesting ones in a season, so it looks less interesting by comparison. But I think as a standalone, it really works.
Okay. I can't go with you on that one, but I do appreciate why you like it.
That's okay. The next one in my run is a story that topped the season poll everywhere when it first came out.
Yeah.
And is now languishing at 215.
Good grief.
Dragonfire.
Is that low?
It is that low. I was genuinely shocked. This didn't even come into my mind. When I was brainstorming, what sort of stories might I have on the list, I didn't have Dragonfire there because I thought that won't be... No one dislikes Dragonfire. And then when I was looking through to find out where some of these stories were placed, and I saw Dragonfire at 215, I thought, right, that's going on the list.
Yeah, good call.
It's a good, fun adventure. It blew my mind when I was about 8. Everyone loved it when it came out. It was, as I say, it topped season polls in Britain and in Australia. Sabalom Glitz is great in it. You've got the woman who plays Belage, from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, whose name escapes me, but she's really good. She gets some great scenes. There's the scene with her and the Doctor on the Nosferatu, where he's just saying, I'm sorry, but you've made your call and you have to live with this. That's a really dark and wonderful scene. Kane Edward Peel is great. It looks big. It's got an alien homage. Look, I get this isn't classic and there's a lot of Bennett McCoy to come, but this is a fun Doctor Who story. And the introduction of Ace. And Mel in one of her better stories. I think it's toss up between this and Delta and the Bannerman as to which is Mel's best story. She's really good in this. I think pairing Bonnie with Sophie really, really worked. I can put this 3-parter on and very happily while away 75 minutes. Yeah, good call. I can get behind that one. Excellent. Well, we've now got 3 of yours, Rob. Ooh. Starting with 217. 217, Dave, and we've just mentioned it. It's Delta and the Bannermen. Oh, okay. Justify that to me, Rob.
There are bits of this story, Dave, that I watched today, and it's so cringy and odd. I can imagine a modern viewer coming to this, and they are going to flip the F out. But I saw this as a 12-year-old, Dave. I saw this 31 years ago. So the first imprint on my mind that it was fun, it was of its time, and it was so much better than the previous seasons of Colin. And it was even better than, say, Time and the Rani, which was in the same season. So this sticks in my mind for those reasons. But having said that, I look at it now, and it's still just so fun. And here we go. 3 out of 3 stories I've mentioned so far, I've said they're comic booky. This is very comic booky. This is very graphic novel to me. This is like something out of a 2000 AD strip, especially the landing pad with the bus at the start. It feels big. It feels sci-fi. It feels authentic. And it's only just a little small scene in the overall story. But it made the Doctor Who universe feel really big and interesting again. It was like a strip from Doctor Who magazine. We were all singing Andrew Cartmell's praises by this time in the series back in 87. And again, I know this story isn't perfect. I know it has bizarre bits to it. I know Billy starts eating the raw jelly and he turns green and they fly off into space and it's just,
Yeah, and
bizarre.
Who were the Bannermen and what were they doing? It's a really strange story. I wouldn't have it on my list. It's not a story I'm going to pull out, I'll be honest with you. But I have learned to appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah, it's a real guilty pleasure for me.
Yeah, that really is a guilty pleasure, I think. But I love that you love it. Down one spot at 218.
Yes, and we're getting into some Davo now.
A Davo at 218. Go on.
Yeah, don't worry. There's a Davo even lower down. 4 to Doomsday, Dave. Now this gets so bagged, but I love it. And I think we've discussed this before on the show, so apologies to people who've made me make this kind of comment on it before. But to me, this is a Hartnell story. You have a curious doctor, you have this 3-person TARDIS team, an alien spaceship, there's bonkers stuff going on. It's so Hartnell to me. And yes, I get that Tegan's sketching skills are ridiculous, and yes, she knows this specific Aboriginal dialect, which is a crazy stretch because the average Australian knows no Aboriginal, let alone a very specific dialect of Aboriginal. But put all of that aside, and the storyline seems so Doctor Who to me. And when you have that fan knowledge that this is Davo's first story in front of the cameras, you sort of watch it with that appreciation that this is pure Davo. This is his very earliest take on the role. And I think he does so well. And I think it's fine. I don't understand why it gets so bagged.
I loved it as a kid. It fired my imagination. I will confess, as an adult, I find it very slow. And I find the performances, amongst, frankly, all the leads, I've got to say, maybe with the exception of Sarah Sutton, maybe, but I find all the leads just a little off their game. And that makes it a little bit harder to watch for me. That's why I probably wouldn't pull this off the shelf nearly as much. But by the same token, down at 218, that is quite a harsh ranking for this.
It's very low, so I had to include it.
And the final in this trilogy of yours, Rob, is 220.
I might horrify you here, Dave, and maybe I'm even horrifying myself by saying this, but no, damn it, I'm going to say it. It's Love and Monsters.
I'm a little bit horrified, but go on, it's your pick. Justify it to us, Rob.
This is actually my only entry from New Who in all of this discussion we're having, and I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing, but to me, this is a story that I seem to watch in a really good frame of mind. When I saw it the first time, and I thought, this is funny. This is a piss take. This is doing something really different, and it's a nice diversion from the rest of the series. And I never had any issue with it. I could see why people might, however, have some issue with it. Even as I was watching it for the first time, I was sitting there thinking, oh, people are going to freaking hate this. Oh, they're going to hate that. Oh my God, they just did that. Oh, this is going to be hated. So I was thinking that even on first watch, but I was enjoying it. And, maybe if I'd watched it in a different frame of mind, or maybe in some different format, maybe I could start to sympathise and fall into the other camp. But for what it's worth, that first impression I had remains with me to this day, and I just see it as really fun. Even when they make the oral sex joke at the end, which people seem to pull out now and say, oh, they make this oral sex joke, it's terrible. I think, oh, come on, it's funny. That's all it is. It's entertainment. It's funny.
Yeah, I'm not going to buy into this one. I'm sorry, Rob. It's a story I've really genuinely tried to love, and particularly after a couple of years passed and people were talking about why they liked it and how they saw it and how it worked for them, I thought, okay, I'm going to try and watch it through their eyes. And I have, but I just can't. It is the sort of humour that really needs to land or it completely flops. And for me, it just falls that wrong side. And I'm sorry, it just doesn't work for me. And a lot of it, I think, does come down to the villain.
Yeah, look, that's fair enough. And again, I fully acknowledge that I think I just got up on the right side of bed that day. It just imprinted on me the first time, in the way the writer intended it to. And there it is. I like it. Others, meanwhile, might have been expecting something else, didn't like it, and have hated it ever since. I think a lot of episodes are like that, maybe. You've just got to see them in the right frame of mind. I'm sure there are people out there who like Rings of Acca 10, for example.
Yes, I believe so. The next one's one of my picks. It's a story that I have talked about before, but I couldn't leave it off the list. It came in at 223. And it's The Horns of Nimon.
Ooh, Lord Nimon.
This is genuine guilty pleasure Doctor Who, because I know that it's terrible. But I just love watching it anyway. I love the over-the-top performances. I love the wit of the script. All those lovely little Douglas Adams lines and references, and the Gravitica normalizer, and I believe he lives in the power complex. That fits. All of that sort of stuff. It's great. It's got Giles Gibbs Kent, who's a lovely actor. Sadly didn't live much longer than this story. Who plays Seth? He's really good in it. Graham Crowden, obviously, but also, to be absolutely serious, it has this wonderful third part where Romana, and how good is Lola Ward in this?
Yeah. Where
Romana goes to Krinoth and sees an alien invasion that's succeeded in a world that's been destroyed and defeated. And that's really dark and effective and evocative to see that the Nimons, have won and wiped out this planet. And that, if we don't stop them, that's what's going to happen to Skonos, and then the next planet, and the next planet. So it has got a bit of dramatic depth to it. But even without that, it's a lot of fun. I can remember going back several years now when my friend Richard and I did a panel at a Doctor Who convention, a professional one. We were asked to do some panels for it, and we did one on cliffhangers. We just showed, here are our top 20 cliffhangers and why we think they're good and what cliffhangers are good for. It was just a chance to show people clips and have a bit of a chat while others are out getting autographs and stuff. And we finished the panel with our 10 worst cliffhangers, number one of which was part one of The Horns of Nimon, where the Doctor sees the asteroid, turns to K9 and says, "It's coming right for us," grabs K9 and just sort of hides under the console.
Yeah.
And it's terrible, but everyone in that hall roared with genuine laughter and genuine love, and to me that sums up The Horns of Nimon. It's terrible, but it's so much fun to watch.
Very good. I think that defines guilty pleasure here.
Yeah, I think so as well. That and Delta and the Bannerman, I think, are probably our guiltiest so far. We've got a couple to go on the list, but before we do, I've got a couple of unranked ones because they've been broadcast since the survey was done.
Okay.
And I'll mention them both together. It's Forest of the Night and Kill the Moon.
Both panned, yes.
Both absolutely panned. So I felt justified having them on the list, even though they weren't lowly ranked. I'm sure they would be now.
Yeah, very fair.
I think these are both really enjoyable stories. They both have conceits that if you're not willing to buy into, can destroy the episode. So I get why they're not loved. But a lot of the stuff on the moon in Kill the Moon I think is really good. The drama's really good. It looks really good. Okay, the giant space chicken is nonsense, but it's Doctor Who, guys. Deal with it. The build-up to that's really good. Forest of the Night, again, the central premise is bonkers, but that is so gorgeously directed, and it's so interesting, it's so well filmed, that I just got engrossed in it and trapped in this world, and in the end I didn't care that it was nonsense. I just enjoyed it. So 2 new Who stories for me that I really enjoyed watching. I didn't think they were classics and was a little shocked to find out how much they were hated when I then went onto the internet half an hour later.
Yeah, Forest of the Night, the sort of magical angle to it really just kills it for me. The way all these trees have grown up so quickly, okay, that's a bit magical, but then they disappear, that's magical. But then the streets aren't wrecked from where they've grown up through the streets, the cobblestones aren't wrecked. I would have maybe liked to have seen some aftermath. Okay, if this forest had grown up to protect the earth and bounce the solar flare off it or whatever the heck was going on, okay, at least let there be some aftermath. And the city's a bit ripped up and, this pseudo-sciencey sort of feel to it that, something actually happened instead of ping, forest appears, ping, forest disappears, everything's back to normal. It was a little too magical. I would have liked it to have been a little more sciencey.
Totally agree with you. Totally understand that. But for me, the way it was done was just so lovely. I didn't care.
Yeah, and Kill the Moon, as you say, it looks really good when they're up on the moon, which is Lanzarote, for people who didn't know. They're on the volcanic landmass of Lanzarote, and they've put some sort of filter on the camera to make it look like moon rock, I guess. That all looks really great, but it just went a bit haywire for me with Clara being given the decision of what to do and talking to the whole Earth and slapping the doctor. Is that the episode with "I'll slap you so hard you regenerate" as a line?
Oh, it could be. I don't remember.
It could be, which just, I thought, why is that acceptable?
The moment that made it for me and the moment that could have destroyed it for me was the moment when they ask Earth to make the decision. And I remember thinking, if Earth says we're going to sacrifice ourselves for this egg creature, I'm out of here, because let's face it, some people might say they'll sacrifice themselves for a creature. They'll be in the minority. If almost no one would turn to their loved one next to them and say, I'll sacrifice you for an alien creature. So I thought it was so realistic but brave for them to take that choice. That Earth goes, no, sorry, we're picking us over it. And then Clara has to make the decision. It worked for me. Look, the last 5 minutes is absolute nonsense. But overall, I think it is, it's more than its last 5 minutes.
Yeah, oh, look, it is. It is. They both are. And they got people talking and they did something different. I can appreciate them for that, but I understand why they're panned, because I tend to pan them myself.
Fair enough. So we're into our final 3 picks. There's one from you, one from both of us, and then one from me. So at 2:28, one from you, Rob.
And we're back to Dave-O, Dave.
What Dave-O's at 2:28?
You'll say, oh, obviously, when I tell you, it's the King's Demons.
Oh, obviously.
Now, this one, of course, gets super panned by people, but for heaven's sake, there's a strong historical theme here, Dave, which is teaching the kids something. I know fans ask, what on earth is the Master trying to achieve? And sure, it's small-time stuff. He's not trying to destroy the universe. But he's trying to mess with the foundation of parliamentary democracy, which will still mess with Earth in some ways. I guess I can see an argument for this could have been better as a meddling monk kind of thing to do. I take that on board.
Yeah.
But I guess they had to use the Master back then because they were putting Anthony Ainley in just about every second story in the Dave-O era. But I really like the setting. I like the location work, the frankly bizarre chameleon, the scenery chewing, my demons! and the fact, this is the big one, it's only a 2-parter. It's one I can feel I can slip on very easily and just get lost in and go, oh, look, it's Dave-O, it's my demons, it's sword fighting, it's chameleon looking bizarre. It's fine. It's a guilty pleasure for me.
Yeah, I can see why it would be. It's not for me. I find it just quite dull. The things you've highlighted, though, are worthy. Chameleon is interesting. You're right, King John is quite entertaining. We sing in praise of total war. So look, I get it. It's not one of mine, but I know Davo has a soft spot for you, so you probably give it some bonus points there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, down at 228, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
Even lower is one we both picked, 230.
Now, I can see it in front of me. You can obviously see it in front of you.
Yeah. Go on.
It's Paradise Towers, folks.
It is Paradise Towers. This is a story that I can watch and be very entertained because it's got several things going for it. The script is really clever. The idea is really cool. A lot of the actors are really, really good. The costumes are really, really interesting. The sets are really well done. Mm-hmm. I think the problem is, one, part 4 falls apart. Mm-hmm. And 2, everybody's in a different story to everybody else.
Yeah.
This is one, I think it was Gareth Roberts who said once that this is a story that needed those Russell T Davies style tone meetings, where just everybody seems to be doing their own brilliant thing, but no one's talking to anybody else about it. And had they sort of all been on the same page, it would have worked better. So I get its flaws, but I just think it's really clever and fun and entertaining, and I'm very happy to watch this one. What about you, Rob? You've picked it as well.
Yeah. Now, look, in my first few examples when we started this feature, I was saying stuff like this is comic booky or this is comic strip-like, and I'm going to return to that here. This, to me, is absolutely 2000 AD. You know, you've got the tower block, you've got the weird residents, you've got gangs, you know, all of it. And sure, I acknowledge that it's done on an 80s children's TV budget and doesn't have the look and feel of, say, the Judge Dredd movie that came out a few years ago with Carl Urban.
Yeah.
But if I think about what the action's conveying, more so than what it looks like, I think this is really strong. Sort of like when you watch a play, for example.
Yes.
It's fake and the sets aren't real and the action's done for the stage and doesn't look like real life, but it's telling you a story. And that's actually how I look at a lot of the classic era, actually. I look at the ideas behind it all, and I almost watch the classic era in some ways like a play being acted out. You know, if I can take Paradise Towers on that level and think about what it's actually saying and what it could be like in my imagination, I think, oh, hell, this is great. This is really quite good.
Yeah, the story and the ideas behind it are really good stuff, and you can start to see Cartwell's influence just slowly coming in here. And you know, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I know at the time people really bagged Pex. I think Pex is great. I think he's exactly how he should be.
Yeah, this big dumb hero.
Yeah, I enjoy this one. Again, look, there are much better McCoy stories to come, but I don't have a problem with watching this at all. And, you know, it's down, in the bottom 11, I think. And that's not deserved.
No, not at all. And I mean, of course, it's not a story you're going to put on to convince someone that the McCoy era is great. But once you're into the McCoy era, I think there's a lot to be dug out of this one. It
certainly is one that is much better to watch now, knowing
what's
McCoy.
To come.
Yeah, no, not just what's to come, but you know, appreciating McCoy better. I think you take more out of this story as well than perhaps we all did when we saw it the first time 31 years ago.
Could you imagine it with the budget of, say, the Dredd movie?
Yeah. I think with a bit of money and a real time, this could be a real epic.
Yeah, me too.
So the last one for the list is one of mine. It came in at 238 out of a list of 241.
Wow.
It is a Colin Baker story.
Yes.
It is Time Lash.
Really?
I can put on Time Lash and enjoy myself. A lot of that is to do with Paul Darrow.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it's just so bonkers and so over the top and so entertaining. The first part of the 245 minutes is actually really quite good. It sets up the dystopian world quite effectively. The Borad looks cool. As I say, Paul Darrow is just amazingly good and so much fun to watch. Colin's having a good time. You've got the little H.G. Wells references. The banjos are terrible, but who doesn't love watching those puppets? The Doctor has done a brave but foolish thing. Well, that wonderful exchange between them and Paul Darrow. Well, it seems diplomacy has failed. Yes, rather like your pathetic planet. Who can't watch that and enjoy themselves? Come on.
Yeah. You've reminded me of a few good things about it, actually. Yeah, I should maybe rewatch that. It's been probably a decade.
Yeah, give it a go. Look, again, if you're in the mood where you want to watch really serious drama, then yeah, there are far better stories to watch. But that rainy day, that just pull out a pizza and watch a bit of Doctor Who to have some fun, I think Time Lash is well worthy.
Okay, good call. Good call to end on there, I think.
Oh, thank you. As I say, we're not claiming that they're classics. We're not claiming that they're great. But we're saying these are fun to watch. And sometimes it's good to just have a guilty pleasure view.
Absolutely. And of course, we threw this open to you out there, the listeners, and asked what your guilty pleasures are when it comes to Doctor Who. Most of you replied with stories. But the first one I'll read here, my mate Cameron Riley, who does many podcasts. Life of Caesar is one of them. The Renaissance Times is another. He just does so many. Cameron says, admitting I cry when I watch it. That's his guilty pleasure about Doctor Who, Dave.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it is, because he is a grown man.
We have one here from Cami, who tweets at Cami79. Everyone hates the twin dilemma, but when I watched it, it wasn't that bad. Cami, I'm going to 3/4 agree with you. When I watch the twin dilemma, I start at episode 2, and that makes it a reasonably okay sort of space romp. It's part 1 that kills that one, I think.
Yeah, good call. Our mate Stephen B at Steed Stylen, g'day Steve, he says any Graham Williams story where Tom Baker is supposedly being too silly. Bring it on, I say. As crap as some of the stories are, script or production-wise, Tom is never less than captivating. A multicoloured whirlwind who is Doctor Who. P.S. That includes Underworld.
Well, you're a brave man there, Steve, but there are some in there that I agree with. Nightmare of Eden could have possibly made my list. There's some fun in there, but it is pretty bad. But no, that's good. One from Graham Applin at Skeptical Husky. He agrees with me here, Rob. He says, Horns of Nymon. It's fun, it's kitsch, it's not the greatest serial ever, but it has a twinkle in its eye, and I certainly prefer it to the rather po-face stuff which followed it. Look, I really like the po-face stuff that followed it as well, but twinkle in the eye exactly sums up why Horns of Nymon is pleasurable to watch. Good call.
Absolutely. Our mate Jeff Waddle at JeffWaddle68 on Twitter says, well, hey, he agrees with me, Dave. Delta and the Bannermen. I know it's rubbish, but it's a gentle story that you can put on and just while away an hour. And this is when McCoy began to change into the brilliant Doctor he became later on. Completely agree, Jeff.
Yeah, it's a good call. Gav Wood, or at Wood_Gav, there's no such thing as guilty Who pleasure. There's not a single story that hasn't got some entertainment value, apart from Terminus.
Nicely played, Gav. Simon Pittman at Library Player says the TV movie. McGann is a great Doctor, great TARDIS interior, and a fairly decent story. And I'm not against the idea of the Doctor being half human either. Well, I'm not sure I agree with the last part, but yes, McGann is a great Doctor. The TARDIS does look great, and the story wasn't that bad. Yeah, I can sort of see it.
I reckon that there's a really good 60-minute edit of the telemovie that would be really good to watch.
Yes, someone should do that. Get on that, people.
Very Pete Lambert at Prof_Quite a Mess
one of my favourite Twitter handles.
They nominate Mark of the Rani is pure Who comfort food. It deserves a better reputation.
Yeah, the location filming's quite good in that.
Yeah, it's not one of my favourites, I'm sorry. But hey, this is the point. Everybody enjoys something.
Yeah, that's right. David at David's Ideas says The Web Planet. It's a great adventure with very well designed costumes, and right now my favourite companion combination. I watched it 3 times the week I got the DVD. Oh, and I'm sorry, but atmospheric density jackets, genius.
There's a lot going for The Web Planet. I couldn't put it on my list because I would struggle to pull it out and watch it in one sitting, which I think you need to be able to do if it's a real pleasure. But watched over a couple of sittings, yeah, there's a lot to commend The Web Planet, I agree. We've got a simple nomination here from Vaughan Stanger, at Vaughan Stanger. He simply says, The Crotons.
There you go. I know a few people who like The Crotons.
I was listening to Crinoid Podcast's discussion about The Crotons on my drive home from work today, in fact, and yeah, look, it's got its faults, but it's not bad. Okay, I can see that. Yeah. Jixter at Jixter2009. My guilty pleasure is watching any episode that features the interior of the TARDIS beyond the console room, such as Castrovalva. As a kid, how cool was it when you saw more of the TARDIS?
Yeah, I must admit, I am a sucker for that. And I think when we spoke about Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS, I was saying how I was so looking forward to that episode because I love stories that go into the TARDIS. So I completely agree with Jixter. I'm not sure they make them guilty pleasure episodes for me, but I do enjoy them.
Mm-hmm. And we have one via email from our regular correspondent, Mike Solko. Hello, Dave and Rob. Going with your recent tweets, I tried to avoid picking any high-ranking stories as guilty pleasures. Here's a quick list of stories I love despite their flaws. The Rescue. It's easy to dismiss this story, as the story is a bit dull and obvious. Even so, the regulars get some enjoyable character moments, and I love seeing Vicky join the team. I love The Rescue. That is a brilliant piece of drama, so totally on board.
And it's a quick story to watch too.
It is, and it's Hartnell at his best. It's great. Mike goes on. The Chase.
Yay!
We all agree with you there, Mike. He says, The Beatles, Universal Monsters, Mechanoids, Morton Dill. How can you go wrong with Frankenstein body slamming a Dalek?
Quite right.
The Happiness Patrol. It's a wonderful take on the Doctor overthrowing a government in one night. Some pieces are admittedly rubbish, the pipe people, the go-karts. I wonder if people would have reacted better had the Candyman been more in line with Curry's original idea. I don't know how low the Happiness Patrol ranked, but I don't think it did all that badly. I think people are really starting to appreciate this one, and rightfully so.
I think so. It's an interesting story. As they say on the DVD, and I think as every fan says these days, it's overlit and looks a bit garish. But otherwise, it's quite good, I think.
Yeah, one day I'm going to do my essay on liberalism and the Happiness Patrol. I think there's a lot to say in this one. But Mike goes on, and it's another of your picks, Rob. He says Delta and the Bannerman.
Woohoo!
It's my favourite Who story. This is where my favourite Doctor comes into his own. Mel is never better than in this one. I agree with that. Mel is fantastic in this. Ray's the best companion who never was. Nearly everyone seems to be having a blast making this story, and the joy translates to me as a viewer. It's far from objectively great, but there is charm and magic here that has been lacking for several years. Thanks, Mike. Great summary there, Mike. Some really good picks. And yeah, this is it. Sometimes it's just that feel, that warmth, whatever, that really can make a story. But listeners, I challenge you, if there's anything on our list that you've not watched in a very long time, we've piqued your curiosity, just go out and watch it and tweet us or email us and let us know if maybe you saw the pleasure in the guilt.
Maybe for me, Dave, it's Time Lash.
I might give Delta and the Bannerman another go.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
All right, let's regroup and talk about that next month.
Okie doke.